Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What's all the thank yous about? Well, tune in today's episode because we are going to dive into the science of gratitude. Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Okay, everyone, today we're doing something different. We are going to strip away the fluff when it comes to gratitude, right? The Pinterest quotes, the forced positivity, and we're getting into what the research actually says when it comes down to gratitude. Because gratitude isn't some sort of, cute personality trait. It's actually a biological intervention. It has an impact on your health. It has an impact on your body. Gratitude, it changes your brain. It shifts your hormones. It changes inflammation patterns in the body. It changes how you age. So how's that for something that is super simple and easy that we all have access to? So if you've ever thought, oh, gratitude, it's nice, but it doesn't really fix my problems, like my real problems, then stay with me because the science is actually saying otherwise. So let me tell you up front, gratitude is not about pretending that everything is great. That's delusion. That's kind of bypassing. It's pretending something that isn't so. So real gratitude, it's actually a regulatory practice, okay? It shifts your brain into coherence. It will stabilize your stress hormones. It'll reset that inflammatory response that happens in the body as a result of different stressors. And gratitude is more than just mindset work. It's actually physiology. Okay. And today I'm going to walk you through a couple of different scientific studies that show exactly that, because I think we need to just take it out of this feel good realm and be like, hey, okay, it actually makes a difference. So let's dive in. Let's talk about gratitude and the brain. So there was a study in 2015 by Fox et al. And they looked at what's the impact that gratitude actually has on the brain. Because if the brain doesn't shift, then nothing else actually does. So there was a team at the University of Southern California, and they did this fascinating study. They took 43 adults. They looked at their, functional MRI scans, and they gave them a gratitude task. And participants, they were told they needed to read stories of people receiving help and then imagine themselves as if they were receiving help. Now, the Hallmark version, right? The real visceral version of someone showed up for me when I needed it. And here's what happened. So the medial prefrontal cortex of the brain, okay, and that's the part of your brain that's responsible for that emotional regulation, that long-term decision making, the stress adaptation. It like lit up like a Christmas tree. And here's the kicker. So that activation, it wasn't like a momentary blip. It actually persisted for weeks later after the study was done. So what does that tell you? Well, what does that indicate, right? It indicates that gratitude can actually change your baseline settings. So it's training your brain more toward resilience. It's strengthening that circuitry that actually helps you stay calm under pressure. And in Dr. Joe Dispenza's language, one of my favorite people on the planet, this is how you actually break the old emotional addictions and create a new internal signature. Okay. In German New Medicine terms, which is also pretty fascinating if you've never looked into that, in German New Medicine, this actually supports resolution, because what it does is it stabilizes the brain relay system that's involved in what's called a conflict shock. So when you are dealing with something traumatic, it creates the shock in your brain. And so when we're working with gratitude, what's showing up from this study here is those changes in the brain then have that longer term impact. It's pretty cool stuff, right? So the next time someone tells you gratitude is woo-woo, then you can remind them that we actually have functional MRI results and imaging that proves otherwise. Okay. So that's the brain. Let's talk about inflammation, gratitude and inflammation. So this is another study in 2015 by Mills and Company, right? And inflammation is important because if you're tired, if you're inflamed, if you're gaining weight, or if you're dealing with like the hormonal chaos that a lot of our clients deal with, this part is really important for you. So this particular study, it looked at heart failure patients, okay? And these were people like with real physiological burden, right? They were not college students, journaling by candlelight or looking to make a quick $5 on campus. These were actually people who had serious health issues. And the researchers had them do one thing for 8 weeks, okay? They had them on a daily basis, they had them journal about gratitude. So every day they had to journal what it was that they were thankful for. They weren't doing manifestations. They weren't giving affirmations. They were just writing down what they were thankful for. And here's what happened. Their C-reactive protein, CRP, which is a marker that we look at in blood work for inflammation, it actually dropped significantly. So there was a statistically significant drop in their C-reactive protein for those that were writing every day what it was that they were thankful for that period of time. Now, think about that, because this is a big deal. Like, this is huge. We're all like, people are always like, how do I get my inflammation down? What can I do? Well, we've got documented research that shows that daily journaling practice actually changed inflammation in a measurable and biological way. So there wasn't supplements involved. There wasn't medication involved. There was no big detox, and those things have their space. Of course they do, right? But this was just gratitude. Now, remember, inflammation, it touches everything. It touches your hormones, it touches your brain fog, it touches your mood, it touches your weight, it touches autoimmunity, it touches your gut health. So when people say gratitude doesn't actually do anything, tell them about this study, because it lowered that C-reactive protein in those clinical patients. And you guys, I think that speaks wonders for itself, especially when there's no cost. It takes very little time, and it's something that every single person can have access to, right? So let's talk about the third study that I wanted to cover. And this one was about the quality of sleep. So gratitude and how it impacts your sleep. And this is Jakowska et al. This is a 2016 study. And in this study, well, let me take a step back. So sleep is your body's global reset system. So your body has to rest. It has to sleep. Otherwise, everything else goes astray. You know that. You've probably experienced it when you've had a sleepless night or something. So what this study looked at is it looked at the activity that was happening during sleep. So participants, they wore like a device that measured when they began sleep, it measured their sleep efficiency, and it measured how many times they woke up in the middle of the night. And the finding was simple and powerful. So people who scored higher in gratitude, so those who were more grateful, they actually fell asleep faster. They woke up fewer times. They had higher sleep efficiency. So, in plain English, I mean, their nervous systems were calming down faster. And this, I mean, this is fascinating to me. So, this is where like the science of the nervous system and gratitude actually intersect, because when you cultivate gratitude, you shift out of sympathetic dominance. So you come out of that, like that state where you're like completely stressed out, and you move into parasympathetic regulation. Okay. So your body calms down. You quiet like the rumination that goes on in your brain, or the mental replay. You soften the hypervigilance. And for those of you who are somatic, this is the same, if you use somatic exercises and things like that, including breath work, this is the same mechanism that we access through breath work, right? Breath work or touch or grounding or just being intentionally present. So, and those of you who are my bioenergetic clients, when the nervous system settles, your biofield can actually stabilize. And what does that mean? That means that your organs actually begin to regulate. So pretty powerful stuff, you guys. And of course, for all of you out there who are like stress, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about gratitude and its impact on cortisol. And this was a study by Krauss. I love Krauss. It was a study by Krauss done in 2017, and his work, I really enjoy looking at a lot of his research studies. But I always say you can do all the things right. You can eat clean, you can take your supplements, you can meditate. But if your cortisol is dysregulated, everything else stays completely chaotic. So in this study that they did, they looked at over adults over time, okay, and they measured gratitude. They measured their salivary, so their saliva, their salivary cortisol throughout the day. And the outcome was pretty awesome. I find this stuff fascinating. I hope you guys too. But the higher their gratitude, the lower their cortisol, right? The higher their gratitude, the lower their cortisol. So not only that, but their cortisol curve actually improved, meaning that so your cortisol should be stronger in the morning when you rise, and then in the evening it should begin to have its decline. So that curve itself actually improve with the higher amounts of gratitude. So, I mean, in functional medicine, it's like, the gold standard of a regulated stress system is that beautiful cortisol curve. And for women in midlife, for example, if your cortisol is flat, or if it's reversed, or if it's kind of chaotic, gratitude can be one of the simplest, most underutilized interventions that you can actually begin to use to fix it. So we have a lot to be thankful for. Think about what it is that you can be thankful for every day, day in and day out. There's always something, even if it's a tiny little thing. There are blessings all around us. So let's put the pieces all together. So gratitude, it strengthens that medial frontal cortex. Okay. That's the seat of your emotional regulation. It lowers inflammation. That's the underlier driver of like fatigue and weight gain and aging. We said it improves sleep. The most restorative healing your body has is when you're sleeping. So it's so important to get that sleep in. It lowers cortisol. So remember, that's the hormone that governs our stress tolerance, our energy, our fat storage, our cellular signaling. And what pharmaceutical do you guys know that can do all of those different things without side effects? Tell me what supplement, for example, has that wide range. And this is why gratitude, it's not just like mindset work, or it's not just fluff. It's actually recalibration of your nervous system. And that is so powerful. So, you've heard me say this time and time again if you've been following my podcast, or following me on other social media channels or whatever, but you've heard me say time and time again, the body listens to everything that you think. I'll say it again. Your body listens to everything that you think. So, in functional medicine, we call it the neuroendocrine immune loop. Okay, fancy word, neuroendocrine immune loop. In neurolinguistic programming, right, we call it state creation. In bioenergetics, we call it coherence. In German new medicine, we understand that when conflict perception shifts, the body can actually move into healing. So, gratitude is one of the fastest ways for you to begin to shift that internal state from survival to regulation. And once the system is regulated, well, the body can do what it is designed to do to actually heal and repair. So, couple things that I recommend that you begin to take on doing. So first is a 90-second activation exercise. So close your eyes right now, okay, and think for a moment about when somebody helped you, truly helped you. And let yourself, feel the relief, the safety, the recognition. And hold that feeling for 90 seconds. Just like they did in the study, you guys. Just like they did in the study, but hold that for 90 seconds. That's enough to activate that medial prefrontal cortex. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay. Another thing you can do, again, based on the study, every night, write down 3 things that you're grateful for every night without fail. It only takes a minute, you guys, right? Write 3 things that you're thankful for and write why. Okay. 3 things you're thankful for and why. And that's it. And again, that was clinically validated. That was the clinically validated protocol to drop inflammation markers. Pretty cool, huh? Next one, that pre-sleep gratitude reset. So remember, in the study on sleep, gratitude lowered that rumination before sleep. So writing down those 3 things of gratitude, you can also write down 3 things that went well for the day if you want. And that's what they did in the study. They wrote down 3 things that went well from the day. And that action actually made it possible for that rumination to go away. So this will shift your brain away from stress, right? Scanning for stress, and then, into completion for the day. And of course, one of my favorite, you guys, this is great for stabilizing that cortisol curve there in the morning when you get up. Before you touch your phone, before you do anything, I always like to put my hands on my heart or give myself a hug and just say, today I appreciate blank because blank. Again, today I appreciate blank because blank. And this will anchor that cortisol awakening response. So just those simple things takes a couple minutes a day to integrate them into your day. You guys, makes a big difference. And we've got the research to even show it. So let's recap here. Gratitude, it's not an emotion. It is not a personality trait. It is not a toxic positivity hack. It's actually a physiological thing that creates well, not a thing, it's a physiological intervention that creates changes in your brain, in your inflammation, in your hormones, in your sleep, in your longevity. And if you practice it consistently, okay, it becomes one of the most powerful regulatory tools that you have. So remember, your nervous system is listening. Your cells are listening. Your hormones are listening. And gratitude is the fastest way to bring that entire system right back into coherence. So start today. Your body will certainly thank you. Come tomorrow. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness Checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode.